Oh boy. Oh boy. Can't stoop any lower. Can't get any more down and out. Can't look any more pathetic. They continue to set a new bar. The Players Association have now started a petition that fans can sign to show their support. That's right. Like, wait, they started a petition? What is this? www.petition.org? Oh my gosh, this is pathetic.
A petition has now entered the picture. The WNBA Players Association chose to launch an online petition asking fans to back their CBA negotiations. No polished rollout, no behind-the-scenes media campaign, just a public link inviting people to sign their name. From the ownership perspective, this likely looks strange. Not threatening, not serious, just confusing. What's unfolding here feels like watching leverage slip away in real time, and nobody had to lift a finger to make it happen.
I don't know where to begin, but let's start here. Shout out to Mick over there, Mick Talks Hoops. An online petition in CBA negotiations. The league has to just be laughing at this point. They have to be. They have to be. Like, wait, they started a petition? What is this? www.petition.org? For those of you asking if there's a petition, please click the link below for...
Here's where things start to feel uncomfortable. The Players Association framed this as an action alert, almost like a massive, fan-driven movement. They directly urge supporters to click and sign. But when you actually look at the numbers, a very different picture appears. At the time the video was recorded, the petition had barely reached about 1,600 signatures. Not tens of thousands. Not even remotely close. Just 1,600 in a league that's been talking non-stop about growth, sold-out arenas, and huge viewership figures. Now flip the perspective and view this through an owner's eyes. You're sitting at the negotiating table. Across from you, the union is floating the possibility of a strike, supposedly the ultimate pressure move. Then you take a break, pull out your phone, and check the petition out of curiosity. 1,600 names. In that moment, the entire tone of the room shifts. The threat doesn't feel heavy anymore. Instead, it feels exposed. Without ever saying it out loud, the union revealed how limited the public push really is. And that kind of signal is something management never forgets. Somehow, it slides even further downhill. Read the wording of their announcement carefully. They are hyping the 2025 season by bragging about attendance numbers, even before the playoffs had started.
Oh, so nobody really wants this to go on. No, okay. Say no more. Say no more. That's not all we have. The Players Association. The 2025 WNBA season has set records for attendance, been in total, both in total and per game, even before the playoffs. More than 3 million fans have flocked to see stars like A'ja Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces and Alyssa Thomas of the Phoenix Mercury.
Before the playoffs, that's not a power move. It's quietly admitting the momentum didn't carry when it mattered most. At the exact moment they need to demonstrate long-term demand, they are highlighting a ceiling instead of growth. Then it gets even messier. While trying to sell the league's star power, they start dropping names. A'ja Wilson, Alyssa Thomas. Those are the faces they credit for filling seats. Not the player who actually shifted the culture. Not the rookie who pulled more than 3.2 million viewers in a playoff debut. Not Caitlin Clark, whose jersey sales reportedly accounted for over 40% of total league merchandise revenue during that stretch. They skipped all of that and went straight to Alyssa Thomas. To casual fans, that name barely registers. You could line her up by herself, and most people still wouldn't know who they are looking at.
Folks, people can't pick Alyssa Thomas out of a lineup if she was the only one standing in it. If she was the only person standing in a lineup, and you come up there and the cop asks you, can you pick out Alyssa Thomas out of this lineup, please? Person will look at you, look at the person behind the glass, look back at the cop. I don't know who Alyssa Thomas is. I don't even know. Is this Alyssa? They'd have absolutely no.
That's not hate. That's reality. This goes beyond weak marketing. It looks like decision-making so off-base that it starts damaging their own position. When you sit down to negotiate a CBA, one thing matters more than anything else: value. You have to prove the product earns the money being demanded. The simplest move would have been pointing directly at Caitlin Clark and saying, "This is the proof. This is the draw. This is the future. Pay us with that in mind. Instead, they are acting like the moment never happened. Like the Iowa surge never existed. Like the Fever didn't jump from a struggling record to real playoff conversations. Like ratings didn't spike every time she touched the ball. Even the Dallas Wings tried floating Paige Bueckers' name before she ever stepped into the league, and that move didn't land either.
Paige's name didn't work, so let's try some other names. That's a good point. They used Paige's name for Unrivaled, didn't work. The Dallas Wings used Paige's name to get people in the arena during Dallas Wings games. That doesn't work. The networks, Ion, they use Paige's name to try to get people to watch on TV, and that doesn't work. So I guess just keep going down the list until one of them sticks. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark's the easiest answer if you really want to sell this.
This pattern isn't new. Unrivaled tried it. TV networks tried it. Everyone keeps pushing substitute stars, hoping the audience follows, and every time it falls flat. The numbers keep telling the same story. Interest isn't evenly distributed. The data is loud about who actually pulls eyes and money. Here's the part that really hits hard. There are over 100 WNBA players who aren't getting calls from Unrivaled or Project B. No side gigs, no backup checks. Their only real basketball income comes directly from the WNBA. And right now, their union leadership is staring down ownership like it's a bluff, while holding cards that don't win hands. These players are the ones stuck in the middle. If this goes sideways, they risk losing the only paycheck they have, all because leadership refuses to confront what's actually on the table. The owners have already made a serious offer. Max salaries clearing $1 million. Revenue sharing moving from roughly 9% to 15%. Average salaries nearing $500,000. Minimums around $250,000. That's not disrespect. That's a massive jump that lines up with where the league financially sits today. But the union keeps moving like it's the NBA. Money is treated as guaranteed, as if the leagues operate on the same scale, when they clearly don't. Now look at the tone of the posts they are putting out after months of dragged-out negotiations. It doesn't sound strategic. It sounds detached. And when messaging drifts this far from reality, the people who pay for it aren't the ones making speeches. The messaging coming from the Players Association is getting wild. They are saying the league and team owners are ignoring player demands, putting the future of women's pro basketball at risk, stalling talks, disrespecting players, jeopardizing everything. That framing doesn't line up with reality when the same owners are offering to more than double the minimum salary and boost revenue sharing by roughly 67%. If we're being honest, the real danger isn't coming from ownership. It's coming from players convincing themselves they are owed numbers the current business simply can't sustain. Instead of sitting down and seriously talking about growing the overall pie so everyone wins long-term, they are demanding a bigger slice from a pie that's still being supported by outside money from the NBA. That's what makes this hard to watch. The owners have been unusually patient, almost unreal levels of patience. They've been swallowing pride, slowing things down, and putting their own leverage on ice to keep talks alive. They are showing up in good faith, trying to land a deal that doesn't blow up the league or leave players hanging. And the response from the union is an optics game.
I must be missing all those asking about a petition. Yeah, me too. We need a new players union. Then they do this. This was last week or the week before. Like, this just goes to show you the missteps. They put this out. WNBA players are ready to strike after contract expires. I mean, this is just sad. This is just sad. And then they changed their profile picture.
Profile pictures swapped out for an hourglass emoji, like a TikTok countdown, as if time pressure suddenly flipped the leverage. That move doesn't signal strength. It signals a disconnect from how negotiations actually work. This doesn't look like leadership ready for prime time. A professional players' union can't move like a campus protest group and expect billionaires to blink. Online petitions and social pressure don't scare owners who live inside spreadsheets and balance sheets. They already know the math. They know what the league earns, what it loses, and where the real financial limits sit. They also know exactly which names bring attention and which ones barely register outside hardcore fans. Every time the union leans into stunts instead of strategy, it sends a loud message that the business side isn't being taken seriously. The frustrating part is how avoidable all of this was. There was a clean path forward. The union could have leaned into proven growth and used that momentum to argue for smarter compensation tied to revenue expansion. They could have built sliding scale revenue sharing that grows as profits grow. They could have centered negotiations on real quality of life upgrades like travel standards, healthcare, and long-term security that actually help players day to day. That approach builds leverage. That approach creates allies. Instead, the focus shifted to symbolic moves that don't carry weight. And when the numbers come back small, the contrast speaks louder than any statement ever could. They keep throwing out player names that barely register beyond die-hard WNBA circles. At the same time, they are accusing ownership of acting in bad faith while turning down offers that would represent some of the biggest pay increases the league has ever seen. Doing all of this in public only makes it worse, because every move is now frozen on record, dissected, and quietly used against them. What this really exposes is the current state of the Players Association. Either they are completely out of touch with how this industry works, or they are being guided by people who don't understand professional sports negotiations at all. Anyone with even surface-level labor experience would tell you the same thing. Public petitions are a last resort. They signal weakness, not strength. You go public when private talks are dead and when you know the crowd is ready to move with you. That part matters. A petition pulling around 1,600 signatures shows the opposite. It shows the support just isn't there. Even fans who watch games and buy merch aren't lining up to attach their names to these demands. And that's a brutal reality check. From the owner's perspective, the message is clear. There's no public backlash waiting if a season stalls. Casual viewers who tuned in for Caitlin Clark will simply drift back to college hoops. The leverage the union thought it held doesn't actually exist, and ownership knows it. That's why they are comfortable holding firm while offering what the league can realistically afford right now. From the outside, ownership is clearly negotiating in good faith. They are trying to build something that doesn't collapse a few seasons from now. The problem is, you can't reach an agreement with people who won't accept basic financial reality. You can't close a deal with a union that refuses to acknowledge which players are actually generating revenue. And that's why this petition isn't just awkward to watch. It's a warning sign. Because this is exactly where these talks are headed. At some point, the Players Association is going to back down and accept a deal that looks a lot like what's already on the table. Then they'll rebrand it as a win. Meanwhile, non-star players will quietly lose income because of delays, and union leadership will walk away with whatever credibility they had left completely burned. That's what makes this situation so frustrating. The league just came off the strongest season it's ever had. Attendance up. Viewership up. Merchandise flying off shelves. Social engagement exploding. Every metric pointing in the right direction. Instead of locking in that momentum and using it to secure a smart, future-focused agreement, the union chose performative moves and awkward messaging, acting like certain players are household names when the numbers say otherwise. It's almost impressive how badly this was handled. They walked into negotiations with more leverage than they've ever had and managed to fumble it step by step. And that leverage was real. They could have laid out the 2024 data and said, "This is the proof. This is the value. This is why investment makes sense." But that only works if you're honest about where the numbers came from. Caitlin Clark pulled millions of new fans into the league. She packed arenas in cities that barely paid attention before. She turned Indiana into a talking point again. That impact was undeniable. And ignoring it didn't protect the union. It weakened it. She generated more media attention in one rookie season than most players see across their entire careers. And somehow, the Players Association won't even mention her in official messaging. That's not a harmless oversight. That actively works against their own interests and weakens their position even further. So look at where this all lands. You've got a union with no real leverage, no visible public backing, and no clear strategy. Across the table are owners already offering terms that stretch the league's finances, with no real incentive to sweeten the deal further. In the middle sit more than 100 players staring at lost income if things stall. And on the outside, fans are watching this spiral unfold in real time.
Imagine this. After months of stalling negotiations, the WNBA and team owners continue to ignore players' demand and jeopardize the future of women's professional basketball. The only people jeopardizing the future are the players. The owners giving you over $1 million max salaries, raising revenue share from 9 to 15, $500,000 for the average player, $250 for the minimum. The only people ruining this deal are the players. Because they believe that they're
trying to make sense of how leadership managed to fumble such a strong moment this badly. That petition sitting at roughly 1,600 signatures says everything.
Fans aren't mobilizing. The public isn't demanding ownership cave. The pressure campaign never caught fire.
And with every extra day this drags on, the Players Association looks more disconnected and more desperate. This is what happens when ideology starts running the playbook instead of strategy. This is what happens when reality gets ignored because it doesn't fit the narrative leadership wants to sell. This is what happens when performative moves replace results-driven thinking. The union had a real opportunity to lock in a landmark agreement that could have stabilized and grown the league for years. Instead, the focus drifted to symbolic gestures that landed with less impact than a small business rewards program. At some point, the players themselves have to take a hard look at what's happening. At some point, they have to ask whether this leadership is actually protecting their careers or quietly putting them at risk. Because if that question isn't asked soon, the damage becomes permanent. The rank-and-file players are the ones who pay the price for bad strategy. And if they don't step in before it's too late, they'll be the ones left holding the bill when this all collapses. This is the moment where everything snaps into focus.
Not with a headline. Not with a tweet. Not with another petition. But with consequences.
Because negotiations don't care about vibes or symbolism. They care about leverage, timing, and reality. And right now, the Players Association is out of alignment on all three. The league didn't fail the players at the negotiating table.
The numbers were there. The momentum was there. The audience was there.
What failed was leadership's ability to turn that moment into a sustainable win. Instead of anchoring demands to proven growth, they chased optics. Instead of protecting the most vulnerable players, they gambled their income. Instead of building pressure, they exposed how little of it actually existed. This wasn't a missed opportunity.
It was a self-inflicted wound.
And the hardest truth is this.
The owners didn't need to outmaneuver anyone. They just waited.
Every public misstep did the work for them. Every petition, every emoji, every carefully worded post quietly stripped leverage away. By the time this ends, the deal will look a lot like what was already offered, and the cost of delay will fall squarely on the players who could least afford it. That's the lesson here. In professional sports, growth moments don't last forever. You either lock them in with discipline and strategy, or you watch them slip away while pretending you're still in control. If you want the real breakdowns, the stuff that doesn't get sugarcoated or spun, follow Courtside Leaks.
This story isn't over yet.
And when the final deal drops, the receipts will show exactly who won, who lost, and why.
We've got every angle covered.
Every leak, every backstage twist, every moment they won't show you.
Hit like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video.
Stay locked in with Dunk Dynasty, your home for the truth behind the WNBA headlines.